Hello everybody, welcome back on my channel, How to Neuro. My name is Federico and I'm so happy to be back with you with this new video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different considering the previous ones. In the previous videos I've shown you some scientific papers and I thought that maybe it could be useful for you to have a guidelines and a tutorial on how to read a scientific paper. That's why I have my GoPro on, so to give you a better experience while I'm analyzing this paper with you. I will go just through this paper on a structural level, not to go too much into the scientific contents of this work, just to explain you a little bit how it works, the reading session of a scientific paper. Okay, let's go. Before starting, I have to tell you that actually there is no a single right way of reading papers. There are many different ways, and it also depends on the reason why you are reading that specific paper. For example, if you want to reproduce an experiment, so you're reading that paper for your project, you will probably need to focus on specific parts of the paper. So this is just a way of how I am used to read paper, but if you look for other videos like this on YouTube, or if you ask to other scientists how they read papers, you will find out many different ways. This is not a universal way of doing it. So each paper is structured in this way. First of all, we have the title, of course. Then we have the abstract, which is a short sum up of all the contents of the paper, starting from the very first introduction until the results. Then we have the introduction, which is an overall about the topic of interest of that specific work. So a general overview of the current situation in that specific field. Usually the introduction is important if you're not really close to that specific topic. So if you're focusing on a subfield of the neuroscience or whatever scientific field and you want to get closer to something else, or you're curious on something else, the introduction usually is something that gives you a proper overall about that specific topic. Then of course we have the results, the most important part of the paper, because there are all the results of the experiments, the questions the authors have made themselves, and of course the answers they have obtained from their experiments. Then we have the discussion, which is an interpretation and, let's say, a story about which could be the reasons why they have obtained certain results. So usually it's kind of more speculation about what happened during the experiment sessions. And finally, the most important part is the methods, which is a really detailed list, let's say, of step-by-step approach they have done in order to obtain that specific results. This is really important because nowadays in science, one of the biggest problems is the low level of reproducibility of the experiments, and so the method sessions is really important if you want to reproduce certain experiment. Okay, so for you guys I've printed this Neuron paper. Neuron actually is one of the best journals in the neuroscience field, with an impact factor for this year is roughly 14, 17, something like that, which is super high. So here it's usually the main first page of a paper, also outside Neuron journal. Title, of course, authors with all the institutes where the authors and the scientists have been working, correspondence of course, and the code here, which is basically the link that by clicking you directly go back to the paper. So the summary here is the abstract that I've described to you before, and as you can see it's a little box of how many lines, like 12, 15 lines, not too much. Then we have the introduction. As you can see, as I said before, it's full of references. It means that it's really cool for you in order to get closer to the topic of the paper. So it's really interesting if you're approaching to a different scientific topic, the introduction. And then, as I said, the results with all the different paragraphs. So results, here we have the first paragraph and all the different experiments and results they have obtained, but usually just the title of the paragraph is enough to understand what they have done. In the results you have references to the figures. The figures are actually the most important part of a paper, because especially for me that I'm more visual oriented, let's say, I like to go directly into the figures, because you can see through the figures directly what they have found and described to you in the text. So this figure 1 usually is referred to the first paragraph of the results, but it's not always like that. I mean, you can also have references to figure 2, 3 and so on. So yeah, it depends on how deep you want to go diving inside this paper, but usually, for me at least, when I'm just curious, I just go to the figures, and if I don't understand something, I go back into the text and try to look for answers there. So yeah, another figure, this should be figure 2. Yeah, it's a really big one, so usually the description could be shifted on the next page. So yeah, figure 2 is referred, of course, to the second paragraph. Then figure 3 again, I mean, these are all experiments, and I mean, I'm not interested in the topics itself. This video is going to be for you only an overall on how to read the paper. Yeah, again, another figure. It's a pretty long one. I mean, neurons are also highly complicated papers that you need so much efforts to understand and to get. So yeah, another sub-paragraph of the results. Another figure, of course. It's pretty long. Yeah, maybe I should have chosen another one easier for you, but I mean, so you now have an overall about how a tough paper is organized. So, and then finally discussion, which is really interesting, as I said before, because it's kind of good speculation on how these kind of results could have been obtained, let's say. So as you see, another figure, okay, never mind. It's pretty long, usually it's like 2 pages, roughly, as you can see here again. And yeah, finally you have, as I said before, the final part of the discussion, the references, as I said, as you can see, usually in high level papers, there are lots of references, as you can see here, really a lot. And yeah, finally, as I said, most importantly, the methods. Yeah, here, methods, it's definitely necessary in order to understand, as you can see here, the animal lines and all the information about the animals they have used to do these experiments. Methods details, so if I want, for example, to reproduce the same experiments, let's say the same surgery as this paper, here I have all the information. Then the quantification also is really important, which is part of the methods, of course, but then it depends on which type of paper you're analyzing. Of course, usually in the neuroscience field, the quantification and data analysis is one of the most important part of the. So yeah, basically that's it. As I said before, the explanation, I usually go direct in the figure and see which are the results they have obtained, and if something is really interesting and caught my attention, I go back into the results and the respective paragraph. This was pretty old. I thought that it's useful for you to have an overall on how a scientific paper is structured. This one was also pretty tough on a structural level, so I chose for you maybe the wrong one, but you have already an overview on how sometimes stuff the scientific literature could be. And it's just a matter of training and training and training, and of course curiosity and interest. I hope this video was useful for you. And guys, if you have any questions, just send me an email, drop me a message, a comment. And if you like the video, please leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. For me is really important. So see you soon, guys. I'll be back with you with another video in the next week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on how many experiments I have, how much time I have for you, and to make the video, build the video, and so on. Bye bye, guys.